Mia Santos was heading to work at 8:21 a.m., but she had been anticipating this day since Thursday, in contrast to the majority of her coworkers who hate Mondays. Ever since learning of her promotion 3 days earlier, she had been mentally counting down to Monday. Mia had her sights set on this job for more than 36 months, and now she was eager to arrive at work and see her door read, Senior VP Mia Santos. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. Every step she took on her way to work served as a reminder of the ones she had to take to get here. I assure you that if you had passed her that day, you would have noticed that she was walking on the moon. Her hair was blowing in the breeze, her shoes were singing, and her navy blue suit was too gorgeous to handle. Please pardon Mia for her too enthusiastic smile as she was ready to cross the street. She knew that in 5 minutes, her life would drastically alter. And sure enough, things altered, but not in the manner Mia had imagined. The new senior vice president was unexpectedly struck by a black minivan. You would think that this was a scene from a Fast and Furious movie based on how quickly the automobile fired toward Mia. Mia's back collided with the fire hydrant as she fell into the road, and the majority of the glass fragments from the car's windscreen flew in her direction. The only thing that seeped out of her was the blood that ran down her cheeks and other portions of her body. She was no longer losing confidence. Mia didn't look like herself. Guess who, on the other hand, stumbled out of the car? With only a little cut above his eyes and a destroyed clothing, the man who had hit her staggered out. His deodorant was alcohol, and it was obvious from his appearance that he was intoxicated and shouldn't have been operating a vehicle. Mia's years of hard work, which had seen her go from intern to senior VP, were undone in a matter of minutes. It was all in vain. There would be nothing she could do to stop her dreams from passing her if she were awake at this moment. Who would have guessed that her life was going to get worse after experiencing a life-altering event? In less than an hour, her first executive meeting would begin. She would never get to see her door sign say Senior VP. Rather, she simply lay there on the ground, lifeless, as others flocked to the site. While some of them attempted to rescue her from the rubble she was stuck under, others phoned emergency services. Alejandro, her spouse, was unable to speak clearly when he answered the phone and said, "Will she be okay?" The doctor was unable to respond to the query, though. Nobody was able to. Pedro, Alejandro's kid, posed the identical query, "Will mommy be okay?" But he was also unable to respond. It took Mia 3 days to open her eyes, and when she did, she found herself in a whole new world. Her limbs, legs, and most other body parts were out of her control. Mia could control nothing but her gaze at this moment. Her words was incoherent even. Alejandro was informed by the doctor that his wife's spinal cord and brain had been severely injured in the crash, and that she was no longer able to move many bodily parts. The doctor said he didn't know if the harm would be short-term or long-term. Alejandro's wife began to run her nose from crying so much as he told her the truth. She attempted to lift her arm to wipe her nose, but she was unable to do so. She was suddenly faced with her new situation. "This is what my life has turned into now, isn't it?" Mia murmured to her husband as he dabbed at her nose. "You would have to dab at my tears and my nose. Who will give me the food I desire? I mean, what sort of mother couldn't prepare food for her kid? How will I answer the phone when someone calls me, or get Pedro ready for bed? And Alejandro, what would I do if I had to go to the restroom? This isn't how I can live." She started crying excessively, and Alejandro promised to try his best to ease her burden. He assured her that she wouldn't have to face this alone and that he would always be there for her. She bemoaned, "Why did this happen the day I was supposed to start working as senior VP?" The 37-year-old was left in a wheelchair after being released from the hospital 11 weeks later. Alejandro was unaware of how much his life had also altered. It was too much for him to handle job and take care of his wife and their children. He paid a private caregiver to help him, but he was unable to pay her for round-the-clock availability. On weekends, he looked after Mia. He was now completely in charge of their finances as his wife had stopped working, and he didn't make as much money as she did. He eventually lost patience, and things became worse when he was unable to continue paying the nurse. He started snapping at his children and wife. After realizing his errors, he expressed regret to them both. He never came back after that. One day, he departed for work. Pedro went straight to his mother, with whom he had always loved spending time after getting back from school. Their relationship had gotten closer after the accident. Alejandro usually got back around 7:30 p.m., so they passed the time watching a movie together. However, he had not returned from work by 9 o'clock p.m. To call his phone, Mia instructed her son. The phone rang, but there was no answer. They called his phone many times, but nobody picked up. Mia was unable to sleep because she kept asking herself what had become of her spouse. She made an effort to maintain her optimism, but dread and uncertainty continued to seep in. She pondered what would happen if her spouse got into an accident or was robbed. Alejandro didn't show up the next day or that evening. Since there had been no reports of an accident in the region, they continued to be optimistic. When Pedro discovered that the majority of his father's clothing was missing from his closet, everything changed. They had not heard anything from him after a week. They realized then that he had left them. How, therefore, have a woman and her kid managed to survive for so long? Who did you think was in charge? Pedro is 8 years old. His mother gave him directions on what to do and how to make their meals, and he took care of her. Mia also made sure he never skimped on his education even while he was taking care of her. She also discovered that Alejandro had stopped sending them money, which they needed to maintain them, even though he had left them. Pedro quickly matured as a result of this circumstance, and he picked up skills that most of his contemporaries lacked. Taking care of his mother while going to school was challenging, but as he got older, he grew more adept at handling it. In order to prevent child services from separating him from his mother, he also had to carry out all of this in secret. He and his mother established a smooth structure that simplified his life. Pedro excelled academically as well, and after completing high school, he was able to pursue law thanks to a scholarship. Sadly, Alejandro's income had also halted, so he was forced to work in addition to his studies. But for him and his mother, things could only get better. Pedro, in his last year of college, had already landed a position at one of the city's premier legal firms. Isn't that incredible? Upon graduating and beginning employment at the company, he was able to provide his mother with a private nurse. He employed Nurse Elena, who assisted with her rehabilitation in addition to providing medical care. Elena eventually grew to be so close to their family that she and Pedro began dating 14 months after she began working for them. Mia needed treatment, and what she needed most was to see her kid happy and her family prospering. Her health soon began to improve. Do you recall the doctor saying that her paralysis could be transient? Mia could now move her legs once again. She used her crutches to help her stand after a while. Mia's recuperation progressed slowly, but ultimately she was able to walk around the neighborhood on crutches. Pedro and Elena eventually got married. During the wedding reception, Mia spoke to the guests about how her son began looking after her at the age of 8. They all assumed she had a private nurse taking care of her until he was old enough to take care of her himself, which left them all stunned. Mia's tale demonstrates that even under the most trying circumstances, love may occasionally be the greatest therapy. What are your thoughts on Mia's narrative then? Till we meet again, be careful. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.